So, Guy, let's talk about this. What effect will this have on the car industry in the UK when the ban does actually take place?
I think the first thing is, I think the government don't like using the word ban, Hayden. I think they're starting to refer to it as the end of sale. So the point at which new ICE vehicles are not going to be available for retail, okay? So looking at the dates, they've moved around quite a lot. So I think we should just call that out to begin with. I think Theresa May originally set the date at 2040.
She did, yep.
Boris Johnson pulled it back in his administration to 2030, and Richie Sunak last year has pushed it out again by 5 years. So 5 years is the date that they've now set that end of sale to. And just in contrast with that, almost immediately Richie Sunak's made that announcement. I think the Keir Starmer and the Labour Party have said that if they come to power in the next election, they will revert to the 2030 date. So it's a bit of a moving feast, and it has moved, and it could move again.
It's safe to say, though, it's not going to move before 2030.
No.
But it's probably also safe to say it's not going to move out beyond 2035. So I think if we were all just to stop and step back, it's happening. I think it's the key thing.
That's it, yeah.
When might be open to some political input and who's in power by when, but we know it's happening.
But I think you can't force people into EVs if they're not ready for it. That's my own view, particularly in this market. I think it's a transitional period. There is a definite curve where there are going to be points in time where it's more popular, and that might be through incentive or it might be through lack of choice. So in the tertiary marketplace, second-hand cars, etc., etc. And I think we've got to talk about that, because if we're not supplying, there isn't enough supply at the front end. So we talked about leasing before. These cars are not going to find their way. There won't be enough stock finding its way into the used marketplace. So you won't develop a second-hand marketplace at any scale, which I think is really important for adoption, because new and leasing is not going to be right. Again, it's not going to be right for everybody. How do you democratise that access? I think it's really important. It's through quality used stock from the end, from the vehicles that cycle through.
And what you're offering, being able to sort of supply everything, it's sort of giving people opportunity, but choice and informed choice, I think, is very important. Again, because of the politics, we just don't know what's around the corner. Well, we know something is going to happen, but having informed choice for people is very important, because it does play in the park at some point.
Guy made the point earlier. We've been through the innovator stage and the early adopter, but it's a massive chasm between that and the early majority. Huge. And I think it'd be naive to think that that's going to be any time in the immediate 18 to 24 month future. Just if you look at the lifetime ownership of vehicles, the different type of ownership. But I think that point around leasing fleet, well served, lots and lots of penetration adoption of EV vehicles, tax incentives for doing so. But for that huge majority, personal ownership, the range of solutions and the vehicle stock just isn't there yet, because we're still in this nascent, early innovator, early adopter curve. So we need more EVs in the park to create the used market, to create the adoption, to create the energy transition.
Steps for cause and effect. Well, how are you dispelling the myths?
Well, that's a good question. So I think first of all, you take quite a wide view. So there are lots of different commentators, research, etc., and we do the old fact checking.
Are there too many commentators?
There are a few people in the market, because it's a growing market, making some, but a lot of people making good noise though. And what you want is that independent view. So certainly at ElectriX, we don't put anything out on our website that we haven't fact checked, so we know that it's right. It's not hype. We think that's quite important. I think originally when we started, there was a little bit of a nervousness about a hangover from Dieselgate, where if all the information comes from manufacturers, have consumers been burned before in that way, in a similar way? So there is people want independent, and a challenge as well, I think, needs to be independent. And I think to your point, Tom, thinking about the battery, I think it's really important that the MOT, that there is some kind of battery health assessment that is a benchmark and it's a standard that everybody understands. Because I think the biggest fears about residual values for EVs, further use, that secondary, third market, is around the battery health. And it's, can they be repaired? Are they keeping their charge? Has it been in an accident? Does it need to be repaired? all of these things need to come out, and I think the MOT is probably the space for me where that should happen.
But that battery health is equally as important for you when it
is. And back to our mission in life to maximise economic and environmental value. If half the value is in the battery, it's absolutely our responsibility on behalf of our clients, LV and Allianz, as an example, to do that. So deploying testing equipment, really important for us, which we're now doing, but also making sure that the right batteries end up in the right place, because it'd be a criminal waste, economically and environmentally, to recycle a perfectly good battery, but it wouldn't be responsible to be trying to reuse a damaged battery.
Yeah. It's consumer confidence, isn't it?
It's
consumer confidence. I know that this is fine, therefore I'm happy with the decision I've made, is a big job to be done, I think, in this marketplace at the time.
And also, one of the things that we're getting from our conversation, and with all the conversations, is how you're working with, you're an offshoot of LV, and you're working with LV, so it's all bringing together. How important is it that you're working, the insurance company is sort of starting to drive this as well, for people to adopt electric vehicles?
I think it's important because for me, and I'm just speaking for myself for a second here, I think motoring is changing. So I think electric vehicles is the start, really, of stuff starting to move away from being just a purely motor proposition. So a lot of things you will talk about will be motor related because it's to do with driving. But, I've got a home charger that's screwed onto the side of my house that comes with the package. It's intrinsic to how I need to operate my car. It's insured, right? So you start to think about how those vehicles start to impinge a little bit on your daily life and how that starts to become part of your network, right? So that's on the side of my house. Anyone can use it. If I move house, that charger's still there. Somebody's still going to want to insure that charger.